And all right, so, sorry about that, folks. Now I think we're finally back here. I'm gonna get started. Oh, we're back now. All right, so anyway, we're gonna jump right in here. But again, this is all live. I wanted to do this live. It is very early here in the morning in London. This is how to succeed with content marketing in 2017 and beyond. I will be talking about various things, but I want to make sure that I set this up so that everyone understands what the current trends are in content marketing in relation to SEO and social, how this all comes together, and what do you have to do as a content marketer to be successful in 2017, leading into 2018. These are long-term strategies, and then we'll talk about how the LinkedIn team does it, how my team does it here and scales it globally around the world. So, with that being said, I did want to take this live. It is very early in the morning here in London. I was at the Kiss concert last night. I don't know if you guys are Kiss fans, but I wanted to start off with a little bit of a poll here. And let's try this. Here we go. So I was at the Kiss concert last night. I'm a huge Kiss fan. I think Kiss are the greatest rock and roll content marketers on the planet. So if you could just take this quick poll, I think this would be fun. These were all songs played last night, except for Beth. They didn't play Beth. But these are all songs that were played last night. So please vote for your favorite Kiss song, and then I will reveal that later. And it looks like Rock and Roll All Night's taking the lead. That was the last song before the encore. But enough about Kiss. Let's dive into today's presentation, and I'm going to tell you a little story about a little goldfish, right? So this little guy's been causing all kinds of problems for the world, for my world, for content marketing. Why is that? Well, back in May of 2015, all of these a host of reputable publications started running this headline that says that humans have a shorter attention span than a goldfish. This is quite an insane stat, but it's very important for marketers, or for anybody for that matter, when you see a stat like this, to question where it came from, right? So this was all over the place. I can't go 1 week without hearing a blogger or somebody tweet about this stat. But when something is so astonishing, it's truly up to us to actually ask where these kind of stats come from. And so if you look at where the stat actually came from, if you drill down into it, it comes from a study from Canada that came out that same year. Now, if you drill down into the study on attention spans, this actual report that was reported in all these headlines, they didn't come up with a stat. Now, they cite it back to a website called Statistic Brain. Now, if you go to Statistic Brain and you look to see where they got the stat, it gets really interesting because the trail goes completely dead. It begs the question of, does marketing have its own fake news problem? I'm not sure if it does. All I know is that it says something about how the media works. It says that it's this trend of always being first instead of being right. So it's the constant chase. And for marketers, it shows that we sometimes jump on bandwagons without thinking things through. Now, the upside of all of this is that there's never been a scientific study on the attention span of a goldfish as compared to a human. Take it a step further, there's never actually been a scientific study on the attention span of a goldfish. It's just silly. So how do these things happen? I don't know. Somebody takes a stat and they run with them. We all love stats, but again, I think it's a case of marketing having its own fake news problem. But what really troubles me about this stat, what really bothers me, is that it's used as an argument. This 8-second attention span myth is used as an argument to dumb down your content, right? So we have this idea of snackable content. You have seconds to grab someone's attention, and that's just not the case. I'm going to prove that to you. I'm going to show you some stats behind this. What in reality, anyone who's quoting this stat, if they actually read the study that they thought they were quoting, they would find some very different results. And so these are this is what we actually know, what we found out about attention spans from that study. Number one, digital media isn't killing attention spans. Number two, we use our attention far more efficiently than ever before in any point in history. We're far better at multitasking, able to divide our attention among several different things without compromising our focus. We're better than ever at processing and coding information through bursts of high attention Smartphones are not killing attention spans, and most importantly, the main focus of our more efficient attention is to find content that's worth paying attention to for longer periods of time. This is really good news for marketers, right? So I will pause very quickly before I get into take this a step further. What is your biggest challenge with content marketing? And this is I'm going to set this up for the rest of the presentation, and of course we will share the results. But take a quick moment to answer this poll, and we'll move right on. I'm going to dive into check the questions here really quick. All right, no questions yet. we'll move right along then. Cool. Oh, look at that, marketing alignment rearing its ugly head again. We've been talking about this, folks, for like 15 years. And it seems like nobody's really got it figured out. Planning, that's easy. No problem. We can talk about that. Resources. You got to be a scrappy marketer, doing more with less. I'll show you how to do that too. I my entire life have as a content marketer, I've never had the challenge of having to go get buy-in. There's never been a problem with buy-in, but there has been a problem with getting the budget and resources. But we'll talk about that in a second. So back to our goldfish attention myth story. So where does that leave us as content marketers? Well, we should hopefully know this by now. You can never over-deliver in value or on value in content marketing. But when we mix what we know with attention spans, and what we know about neuroscience, it takes it a step further. Now, when you see a piece of content, we see something in your feed, or it's a piece of content that's really remarkable, your brain gets a hit of dopamine, and it primes you for the source of that content the next time around, right? So if you don't get that hit of dopamine from a snackable 8-second piece of content, then it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? So it's just, I'm going to make the case for long-form content, but first of all I want to do is I want to put to death this myth of the goldfish attention span. It does not exist. I can't see this thing. I don't want to see this thing in any more news articles, any more glorified blog headlines, or any visual content presentations where they say you have 8 seconds to convince your prospects to buy from you or to read your blog. It's insane. So this is where it gets interesting, folks. The messy truth of it all. This comes from my good friend Steve Racin over at BuzzSumo. BuzzSumo is one of the greatest tools for content ideation, for finding trending topics. It's a fantastic tool, so I recommend you check it out. But they did a study, and they found that 50% of the articles around the world, and they crawled almost every piece of content visible, and they found that 50% of these articles get 8 shares or less. That is absolutely astonishing. 8 shares or less. That says that there is too much content out there. That means that we're pushing out so much content as companies that we don't have time to promote it efficiently. And you might be saying, but shares aren't everything. In the world of trying to rank and amplify your content, shares drive click-through rates. Shares drive reach, impressions, amplification. Shares are no longer a vanity metric. In fact, vanity metrics, I would argue, are just as important today as any other metrics on your dashboard, because it's a sign of relevance. But they also found, and this blows my mind, that many of these articles didn't even get shared by the author. So what is that saying? It says that even the author either didn't like the content, wasn't proud of the content, or didn't have time to promote it. Now, further study show that content word length is tied very closely to rankings in the search engines, right? So the higher the word count, the higher the rankings in the search engines, and that's important too. So what are the absolute, sorry, hold on. The slide got a little stuck there. So what does that mean moving forward? I wanted to see if this was a trend. If long-form content is ranking higher and getting more shares, who's figured this out and who's pulled this as part of their strategy? So using BuzzSumo, I went and analyzed some of the top blogs that I read every day. So this is the MarTech blog, a very popular marketing tech blog. And you can see here, on average number of shares, their articles between 2,000 and 3,000 words get almost double the amount of shares as these other posts. Let's take another look at another blog. This is Contently. Oh, hold on. This is Contently. This is another very popular content marketing blog. You can see here, they've taken it to the extreme. 3,000 to 10,000 word articles. Now, I'm not saying you can do this all the time, but that they found their sweet spot. Look at those, the shares are doubling over the smaller posts. Now, I got a couple more to look at here. This is Copy Blogger, one of my favorite blogs. Probably taught me more than anything I know about content marketing. But look at this, 2,000 to 3,000 words, and look at those shares. That's across all different platforms, but you can see a trend here. And then finally, this is disruptive advertising. Now, they must have figured this out a while ago, because if you look at the trend they have moving forward, 2,000 to 3,000 word blog posts are almost all they publish, and they're getting thousands of shares on average. So you might be thinking to yourself, I can't produce 2,000 word blog posts all the time, and that's fine. But if you're putting out these little 500 word blog posts, they're probably really not moving the needle. But it takes a lot of effort to build these 1,500, 2,000 word, 3,000 word blog posts. But the good thing is, it's a competitive advantage because your competition isn't likely to put in the work for these. So, goldfish attention myth is dead, and the fact that snackable content rules, I'm going to kill that too. Long-form content is not dead. Long-form content is the future of content marketing, and this is where you're going to find success in 2017, leading into 2018. It's going to get, if you do this right and optimize this, and it's relevant content, you're going to see higher rankings, you're going to see more shares, and you're going to see higher conversion. In fact, I saw a case study just yesterday on a product page. There were two product pages. One product page was a short piece of content, I think around, I don't know, maybe 500 words or so, and the second was this huge long-form kind of content page. And the page with more content on it, the long-form content page, converted 37% higher. These are sales, folks. These are conversions. These are leading to revenue. This is leading to pipeline, leading to revenue. So don't discount this. So what's the new model look like? This is interesting because I had not found a lot of people doing this well, but it's a great website called Wait But Why, and I think this is probably the best example of long-form content in blog form that I've ever seen. So what you have here is a long-form blog, right? That gets 31 million unique visitors, which is insane, 87 million page views through only 80 articles, right? And each one of those articles average over 2,000 words. That's crazy. This is completely redefined the way that I think about content marketing blogging here at LinkedIn. And this is from Tim Urban. This is a quote. I love this quote from Tim Urban. He's the founder of Wait But Why. And he says, if you can blow someone's mind, really genuinely blow it again in a really well-written way, then that's something they want to share. So keep that in mind. If you're writing something, you got to go all in. 1,500, 2,000 word blog posts. This is where it's at right now. So I think the biggest takeaway is just to slow down. This is Ann Hanley, the world's first chief content officer from Marketing Profs, a very good friend of mine. Got me started in content marketing years ago with her book, Content Rules, which is the Bible of all things content marketing. If you don't have this book, you should read it. It's just as relevant as it was when it came out several years ago as it is, or it's just as relevant today as it was when it came out a few years ago. But this comes from content marketing world last year, where that was the big theme, was just slow down. And you know, they made the point that we're pushing out content so quickly that we don't have time to promote it. We don't have time to extract all the value. Jessica, her name is Ann Handley. If you just Google Ann Marketing Profs, she will pop up there. So I'm just going to check in here, make sure everything's cool with the questions. All right, we'll get to some more of those questions in a second, but I want to dive back into a quick poll question. How often do you publish content? Daily, weekly, monthly, less than monthly. Now, this is really interesting too, because everything I've showed to you, these numbers, it's made me rethink the way that we blog here at LinkedIn. Now, I used to think that, oh, if you could blog 7 days a week, blog a couple times, even twice a day sometimes, I thought that was the way forward, but it doesn't make sense anymore to me. 2 or 3 really good posts a week, I think, is probably the best way forward. And then I was asking some of my friends, I said, well, how far do you think you could push this? How far do you think you could push the search engines without getting dinged for fresh content? What's the least amount you can publish? And I heard from some experts, and we're talking some very smart SEO folks, that said maybe even once every 2 weeks. If you post a 2,000, 3,000 word substantial blog post, put all that effort into a mega post, if you will, and you post one every 2 weeks, I think that's better than posting a 500 word blog post every day. I really, really do. And the whole kind of fresh content approach to the search engines, I don't think that matters as much anymore as it is quality, relevance, and actually pushing something out there that's worth people's time. So let's take a look at that. Daily, weekly, monthly, less than monthly. You know, that's actually surprising. If you can publish daily, I mean, we all can't be HubSpots, right? I mean, they do a hell of a job, but we all can't. Nobody can do that and sustain that. Weekly is good. I'd say 2 to 3 times a week, and that kind of varies based on your industry, of course. But so let's dive into what does that mean for content strategy moving forward. It means not more content, more relevant content. I've been saying that forever. And the concept of the big rock, which if you've seen me present before, I've talked about this before. You might see a couple of these slides might be familiar to you, but I've constantly evolved this over the past few years. But it stems from my good friend Doug Kessler, and he had this quote. Excuse me, he said this quote almost 4 years ago. And I think it's just as important today as it was when he said this 4 or 5 years ago. He said, the first step any company wanting to start with content marketing or improve it is to aim for one home run piece, one great piece, one thing that is the definitive take on an issue, right? Doug Kessler from Velocity Partnership, probably the smartest B2B marketer I know. Anyway, and so when I was running global content at Marketo, we came up with this concept called the Big Rock. This is our one home run per quarter, right? One substantial piece of content that would fuel our social and our demand generation for up to a quarter, even longer. I'll show you what that looks like. But think about that. One home run. Don't just be putting out content so quickly you can't even promote it, and you're constantly refreshing stuff. And especially for the geos, the folks, the real global marketers in the regional markets, if you're sitting in your office just like localizing content that's being shipped over from the States or whatever, you just got to say no sometimes. When I came over here to the UK, we just stopped everything and we started creating content from the ground up over here. And then our content marketer in APAC started creating content from the ground up over there. We just shut down everything. And then we synced up everything around the world. So now we can launch a big rock piece of content, this one home run piece of content from anywhere in the world and globalize it. So we'll get into that in a second. But the concept of the big rock, again, if you've seen me present, I've talked about this before. At Marketo, we came up with the definitive guides. If you know anything about marketing automation, you've probably read one of these. So it's the definitive guide to marketing automation, the definitive guide to social media marketing, the definitive guide to whatever the hell conversation we wanted to own. So I brought that exact same concept over to LinkedIn, and I created the Sophisticated Marketers series. So hopefully you've seen those before. But the original Sophisticated Marketers Guide to LinkedIn is the one I'm going to talk about today. And the idea is to take this big rock, launch it to the world, reverse it, kind of dissect it and put it back in there in pieces, and then bring it all back together. And I'll show you what that looks like. So where do you get started with this? This is where the fun kicks in. It's very simple. What is that home run? What is that big rock piece of content? Well, you simply ask yourself, what conversation do you want to own? And the good thing about that, especially in the world of B2B, world B2B, B2C, whatever the hell, it doesn't matter. But it often becomes the number one question on your prospects' minds, right? So what conversation do you want to own? And what is that number one question on your prospects' minds? This is probably going to be the same thing for your first big rock or your first home run. So how did I do this at LinkedIn? Well, I've done this several times. I did this at Marketo. I did it from a global approach in San Francisco when I worked there. And I just recently did it earlier this year when I came over to London. And so we had to figure out every single way possible that someone could type a query into the search engine that we had a response to, that we had a solution to, right? So the biggest opportunity, of course, was how do I market effectively on LinkedIn? And when you type that in the search engine, we were on page like 87, right? It was awful. This is a conversation that we need to own. Who was on page 1? Social Media Examiner, Social Media Today, Social Media Explorer. Every social media blog under the sun was telling our story for us. I needed to get this back. This is what content marketing does. It will go to driving the revenue later, but first you got to get this right out of the gate. This, what I'm showing you here, this is the actual keyword research. I don't even know if I'm supposed to be showing this to you, but this is what it looks like. We had to break it out by country, but we found over 800 different variations on how people were searching or asking questions that LinkedIn Marketing Solutions had could provide an answer to. And now we need to narrow that down to a list of about, I think we got it down to about 25 branded and non-branded keywords, and then we have to map our content back to those based on search volume, monthly search volume. Is it worth going after? Are there enough searches for us to create content to make an impact? Um, uh, the competitive nature of the search term. If we go after the search term, is it too highly competitive that we'll never make a dent, or it'll take too much effort, or do we have to look at the long tail and go after the long tail? And this is where it gets interesting for me. So there are people, I'm sure there's some folks out there right now who are saying, but the keywords are dead. Keywords don't matter anymore. Like, claiming that anything is dead is like very passe. We need to get past that as marketers. So forget about that. Keywords are not as important as they once were, but they are still vital, as you'll see here in how do you seed your content. You got to tell the search engines what you are trying, what the messages you're trying to get across, what phrase, what conversation you're trying to rank for. So keywords play a very important role in how you place them based on location, frequency, and distance within the post. You can see here. Now, you don't want to keyword stuff. We all know that's a bad thing, but you want to put this to be very natural. Now, you take that a step further. Moz.com did some research a little while ago, and they found that 70% of keyword searches were long-tail keywords. This is fantastic news for content marketing. Why is that? Because the rise of voice search. I think Gartner's saying 27% of all searches are voice searches now. This is because of Alexa, Cortana, Siri, Android, whatever the hell you're speaking into. You're asking questions many times. But this is good because long-tail keywords, these are keywords that are three or more keywords, and these are in question format most of the time. Long-tail keywords have higher conversion rates, number one, because that buyer is further through the process. The longer the keyword, the further they are through the process, the more specific their question is. But it's lower competition, which is really important because you don't have to go after like these short-tail keywords like online advertising. If somebody tells you that your keyword is online advertising, tell them they're insane, because nobody's typing in online advertising. They're typing what are the online best practices or online marketing best practices. They're doing these variations on it. So we'll talk about that in a second. But topic relevancy. This is where we're at with keywords right now. So topic relevancy trumps keywords. So not only do you have to understand the keywords to seed your content, but you have to branch out on those topics further. So, for example, how do I market effectively on LinkedIn? Would branch into lead generation on LinkedIn, brand awareness on LinkedIn, event marketing on LinkedIn, all these variations, because the search engines are trying to figure out what you're searching on. So they're branching out from these keywords, which is the core, but they're moving into relevancy because they're trying to guess your intent, which is good for us because we have to focus less on the technical aspects and just write really remarkable content focused on these topics, and then optimize it to be found, and then promote the hell out of it, which I'll talk about in a second. Now, if you don't have time to do the keyword research, because it takes a little while. I mean, I think we spent about a month, but we did the keyword research with an agency, or if you use Moz or BrightEdge or whatever SEO tool you use, SEMrush is another good one. It takes some time, but if you need something quick and dirty, you can use Answer the Public. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but Answer the Public is a great tool for just dropping your keywords in. You hit get the questions, and up pops this beautiful blossom of idea suggestions, of variations on your topic that are actually being searched upon. So what this does is Google's keyword planner, they took away a lot of the goodness that we used to get from keywords that were driving traffic to our sites. But what this does is it actually scrapes Google auto suggest. So when you're typing something into the search box and it starts to auto-populate for you, trying to guess what you're searching for, well, this scrapes that, but it puts it into a digestible format to where you can get some insights on your keywords and your topics, etc. Great for blog ideation, great for big rock ideation, great for copywriting, man. Stop writing, check out our latest blog post, and use a variation on that and say why they should check out your blog post or what's in it for them. I call that lazy marketer syndrome. We need to get past that as well. So let me walk you through how we do this. This is the Big Rock. This is the debut. This is the Sophisticated Marketer's Guide to LinkedIn. I wrote this thing 4 years ago. It's in its 5th version. It's still our biggest and baddest piece of content. It's driven millions and millions of dollars in revenue. We'll talk about that in a second. But again, answering the question better than anyone else better than our competition, answering the number one question on my customers and prospects' minds: how do I market effectively on LinkedIn? This is 55 pages of everything you'd ever want to know about marketing on LinkedIn. In fact, effectively, written strategically instead of instructionally, because if you get an instruction manual, you are likely to throw in the trash and run over to YouTube. We don't want that. So this is what it looks like when you slice and dice this thing and extract every ounce of value you possibly can out of this. I think this thing has been running as part of our campaign for literally 4 years, ever since I got here. I'm coming up on 4 years in July. I think we've probably pulled 150 or so different derivative pieces of content from this, which is really important because these are and I'm not going to say snackable pieces of content. They're derivative pieces of content. Of course, they're shorter pieces of content, infographics, podcasts, interviews, slide shares, etc., webinars. They're not snackable. They're teaser posts. They're pieces of content. Let me take a step back. Snackable content, by definition, if you look this up in the Urban Dictionary, which I did, it's content that is meant to be consumed in 8 seconds or less, which is insane because no one's making a decision in 8 seconds or less. If they are, you probably don't want them to buy your product anyway. Now, if you think of this as teaser content, which is teasing you back to a larger piece of content to get you interested, that's a much healthier approach here. Oh, there's a quick question. I'm going to take this really quick. That just came in. How can we stand out in market with the same product which the other company is having? Oh, this is great. This is a bigger conversation we have time for, so I will answer this briefly. When I started at Marketo, it was a market automation company, right? We sold the same thing that other market automation companies. So it was us versus Eloqua. HubSpot really wasn't in the mix yet because they weren't really sophisticated around market automation. Now I think they own the conversation. But it was Marketo versus Eloqua. Very similar products. But you have to go in with a thought leadership angle, right? So thought leadership plus content. You have to say something original. So I think the guy from Forrester says people don't buy the product you sell; they buy the why. So you have to convince them that you are the best product, not only the best product, but that you have their best interest in mind, that you're solving the problems. You're one step ahead of them. So how do you stand out? Well, you have a unique approach, a unique voice. B2B marketing was oversaturated when I dove in there. But I took like a B2C approach to B2B marketing and stood out. So if you do the keyword research and you find these conversations that are happening, and then you look at the marketplace and you take a unique point of view and you bring it to the market and you bring that conversation through content marketing, through thought leadership, that's how you stand out and that's how you win. I promise you it works every time. And not a lot of people pay attention to that, and not a lot of people are doing it well. The more niche your product is, I'd say the easier you have it, to be honest with you. So what does success look like? I get this question all the time. I call this the bat out of hell strategy, which I might need a better global analogy, but bat out of hell is actually open. The musical is actually opening here, so next week in London. So this works perfectly. What is the bat out of hell strategy? Think about this. Bat Out of Hell is one of the biggest signed records in the history of the world. This thing came out in the 70s, 1977, 78. And I bought this thing on 8-track. I bought it on cassette. I bought it on vinyl, CD. I bought it on double vinyl. I bought the double CD. I went to see the tour. I went to see the residency in Vegas. I bought the VHS. I bought the DVD. I bought the Blu-ray. Now the musical's opening. I'm going to see the musical in 2 weeks. They just targeted me, and I got tickets. So what does that say about Meatloaf? That says that it's an always-on strategy. It's one piece of content that's been going for 30, 40 years here, for Christ's sake, but it's always on, and it's constantly being refreshed, and there's constantly value being added to it. So it's the perfect analogy for the big rock and how you can think about getting the most out of this. This is what it looks like at its core, right? Now, I've seen waterfall demand gen models that look more complicated than plans to a nuclear reactor, but this is what it looks like at its core. You have the derivative pieces of content. We call them turkey slices. I'm working on a better global analogy there, but it's just because you're slicing and dicing this stuff. This is really what we call it at LinkedIn, big rocks and turkey slices. The turkey slices are the derivative pieces of content, the teaser pieces of content out there that drive conversation back to the big rock, because we all know that they may not be ready to give you their information right out of the gate. So the teaser content's out there. It's the sort of tentacles out there in the social world through retargeting, through display, through sponsored content, through your blog, etc. And these all lead back to the big rock, right? And that goes into if they fill out that form, we score them. And if they are a qualified lead, then they go over to SDR, they get more further qualified, turn into sales and revenue, hopefully. If they are not qualified, they're not ready to push over to sales yet, we put them into a nurture track and we nurture them with these derivative pieces of content. It's a beautiful thing. It's self-contained, folks. This is one piece of content, right? So I call this, for those about to launch, this is for the Aussies, right? AC/DC or Akadaka, which I was corrected. I can't believe you guys call them Akadaka. I hope that's not true. Anyway, AC/DC, I love these guys. Think about this with your content. With the Big Rock piece of content, there's a substantial investment in there. You don't want to just run and launch this on the blog and then run away, right? So you have to be smart about this. How much value can you possibly get out of this? So this is the always-on strategy. So at LinkedIn, we don't just launch a Big Rock and then move on to the next thing. We think of this thing, we launch it like a product, right? So I need every person in the organization behind me who can help me get eyeballs in this and help amplify this and get this into the right hands. So email, blog, in-mail, company page, sponsored content, slideshow, display, PPC, Twitter. These are just a few of the tactics that we use. But with this Big Rock, we have to come out all guns blazing, right? And this is what it looks like. These are exploding pie charts, folks. Hopefully you've seen exploding pie charts before. This might be a first for many of you, but behold. So my point here is that you'll see these are the results out of the gate. These are MQLs coming in from around the world on the right, and then on the left you see MQLs by channel. Now this is very important to keep in mind. So we launched this thing 4 years ago, and it's still our #1 MQL driver, our #1 most downloaded piece of content. We refresh this thing every single year, just like you would a best-selling book. It takes a lot of effort, but this thing is absolutely worth it. So you'll see here on the right, these are MQLs, marketing qualified leads coming in from around the world. This thing went global overnight. We didn't even launch this thing globally, but it took off on its own and literally went around the world overnight. We would later launch it globally. But the more important chart is the one on the left here. These are marketing qualified leads coming in by channel, not just inquiries. These are not just people downloading the forms or downloading the content. These are people that download the content that we score based on a propensity model that they are likely to buy our product. Now, you see this is the first 30 days. It's important to note that. You'll see 34% came in from email. That makes sense because we did a huge email blast. Well, look right behind that. 32% came in from the blog. I need to fix that color code there. That should be yellow on the blog. But 32% coming from the blog. This is the blog driving revenue. This is insane. This is social and content coming together. The blog is not the sexiest piece of social media, but is arguably the most important. I would say absolutely the most important. Now, the first 30 days you see here, everything MQL is driven by email. Now you look at this 60 days out. What happens? Email starts to decay. The blog takes over because you have these derivative pieces of content living on the blog. Each week you push out a new derivative piece of content, driving traffic back to the Big Rock. You can do this for as many pieces of derivative content or turkey slices as you have. But if you look at the 60 days out, the blog becomes the #1 MQL driver. So again, this is all self-contained, one piece of content. If you look at this 90 days out, email's decayed. You might be running out of derivative pieces of content to put on the blog to drive back to the Big Rock. Now you turn on the sponsored content, native advertising, and you lift everything up and you give it new life. 90 days out, sponsored content, native advertising becomes the #1 MQL driver. You can scale this out. It works beautifully over and over and over again. And so this is Mr. Yngwie Malmsteen. He is a Swedish neoclassical guitar master, one of my favorite guitar players of all time. He's been known to melt faces with his guitar solos. I just thought you should know that. But this is what we call face-melting content marketing ROI. That's just a little taste of Mr. Yngwie Malmsteen there. But 18,000% ROI, folks. One piece of content influenced $4.6 million worth of business in one quarter alone. Do the rough math. It cost us $25,000 to put together everything I just showed you there. That's an 18,000% ROI. Now, $25,000 for everything I just showed you there. Think about that. These are not, we have a very modest budget. And I know what you're also probably thinking, but you're LinkedIn, you can do that, right? You have this huge content team. Not the case. Everything I showed you there was originally created with 2 people and an agency. We don't have this huge budget. We're LinkedIn Marketing Solutions, right? LinkedIn proper markets to all 450 million, 500 million members around the world. It's a very different conversation. So they don't really help us share our content because it's not relevant to their audience. So everything we had to build, we built on our own. Here's a fun fact. When I started here 4 years ago, the LinkedIn Marketing Solutions blog had 12 subscribers. 12 subscribers, and 9 of those were internal. So that means 3 people on Earth subscribe to our blog. Now, now globally we have 40, 50,000 subscribers, and we're getting probably 100,000 uniques a month. But I mean, it's all just through the blog and the big rocks and the social promotion. So, as a scrappy marketer, how do you do more with less? This is where it gets really interesting. Oh, hold on, I got to back up the big rock with hard data. So really quickly, the ROI of content marketing: 73% of all of our marketing qualified leads at LinkedIn are driven by content, and fully one third of those MQLs come from big rock pieces like the one I just showed you. And that one specifically, the Sophisticated Marketer's Guide to LinkedIn, just crossed 100,000 downloads earlier this year. I think it's up to about 120, 130 right now. But this is just this is one piece of content, folks. It's the gift that keeps on giving. Now we just refreshed the cover, and I think we ran out of ideas. That's why it's this kind of hideous 80s mall themed cover. But if you look really close there, it says limited edition. So we're going to change that hopefully later this year. But again, our demand gen team has been using this thing to fuel our content and social efforts. It's our number one MQL generator. It just keeps performing over and over and over again. Now, 4 years in, what do I have to show? Well, this is the slow content marketing approach, right? Not pushing out 1,000 ebooks every single quarter or whatever, but focusing on quality over quantity. Now, this is called the Owned Media Empire, all based on the Sophisticated Marketer, which is the theme that I came up with years ago, right? So we have the four Sophisticated Marketers guides at the top. Not every piece of content we produce gets the Sophisticated Marketer seal, but if you do want to get in the family, we have some branded guidelines. We have branded guidelines for our branded guidelines within the content guidelines. It's insane here. It's very meta, but you have to keep quality control because people expect a certain level of quality when it comes to the Sophisticated Marketer stuff we put out. Podcast has been going for 2 years. What the hell do I know about podcasting? Not much. I just get on there and talk about content. We were the number 3 marketing podcast in the country, and we're getting ready to cross 100,000 downloads just based on telling the story and interviewing, interesting people. So hopefully that's a little bit of inspiration. Now, how do you get more out of less? How do you do more with less? This is Steven Tyler from Aerosmith, 1978. I believe he said this. He said famously, "We believed anything worth doing is worth overdoing." Now, Steven Tyler was not talking about content marketing, if you know what I'm saying here, but what he was talking about was getting more value out of the things that they do every day. So people always ask me, like, Jason, what's the next big thing in content marketing? Like, hell if I know. But if I had to guess, I would say amplification and personalization. Now, we are leaps and bounds away from the Netflix and Marketos of the world when it comes to, or the Netflix and Amazons of the world when it comes to personalization. But there's some stuff you can do today, right now, that gets to the core of personalization and makes it simple. So imagine this. One big rock piece of content, Sophisticated Marketer's Guide to LinkedIn. This is a very top of funnel piece of content, but using dark posting, what we call direct sponsored content, we can push the same piece of content to different audiences and speak to them in their languages, right? So for example, we know that we want to target CMOs with this piece of content, right? And we know that through our own research that their job is to drive transformational change in their business. So we will speak to them. We will promote this content only to those folks using direct sponsored content. So it goes into the feed and only shows up to those folks. It also doesn't clog up your company page or your showcase page with a bunch of irrelevant content. It's very focused, very precise. We take the same piece of content, target it to marketing directors, and we speak to them in their language. We know that they need to drive ROI of their marketing efforts. And then we even take it down to the practitioner because we know the buying committee is now made up of many people. And we need to target all of these folks effectively. And we target the social media managers, and we speak to them again in their language, saying, get the engagement you want. This is personalization at its core, and this is really easy to do. And this is how you get the more value out of one piece of content, drive up that CTR, drive up those MQLs. Now, I'm going to show you a few things that we did from the from the testing studio here. This is some tips and tricks for getting more out of the content you have right now. So we figured out through a little bit of testing that if you post something on LinkedIn specifically and you just let that thumbnail pre-populate, well, that's not good enough. But if you take a and optimize an image, like a piece of rich media, and drop it into the post. As you see it there in the top left, you'll get we're seeing up to 38% higher click-through rate rather than just letting that thumbnail preview kick in. Think about that. I call this the lost art of A/B testing. Now think about this, folks. When did we forget about A/B testing? A/B testing seems to be purely viewed in the world of AdWords, and that gets crazy over there. But let's get to the core of A/B testing. Are you testing your social posting? A few examples here. We changed one word here. We changed ebook to guide. Same creative, same content, same exact messaging. We changed one word, and the word guide saw 100% increase in click-through rate. Next up, we took a person versus an object. Now, this is based on our need for human connection, I think. I don't want to get too psychological here, but the image with the face saw 160% CTR and a 290% lift in conversion. That's insane. 290% increase in conversion. Then we took a stat versus a quote. Who doesn't love a good stat and a good quote? Now, not a huge number, but the image with the quote saw a 30% lift in CTR versus the image without a quote. Now, 30%, I'll take that any day of the week. You know why? Because there could be a significant deal happening in that percentage lift. So this is brand new. I just got this from the team who was focused on A/B testing this stuff, and they got two brand new tests here. The first one is background color. Does wood grain feel more authentic or provide more visual interest? I have no idea, folks, but I'll tell you what. It seems to get 32% more clicks than the lighter background. So I'll take that any day of the week. And this is probably the greatest A/B test I've ever seen in my professional marketing career. We took we took the same guy. This is like that game on like TMZ or something where you just like, what's the difference here? We just turned the dude's head towards the call to action, and we saw an 89% increase in click-throughs. That's insane. We just turned the dude's head. He's a good-looking guy. I'll give him that. But man, that's who would have thought, right? So we got 10 minutes left here, and I got a little bit left to go through, so I'm going to try to crank through this pretty quickly. But running sponsored content, this is where it gets insane, folks. So put on your marketing seatbelts for this one. Running sponsored content in the feed. This is promoted posts, right? Native advertising on LinkedIn with InMail. This is the double, the 1-2. I guess what does Gary Vaynerchuk say? The right jab or something like that. Anyway, we're seeing when you run these two in combination, a 25% increase in open rate and a 95% increase in click-through rate. That's crazy. Show that to your CMO. Some of these numbers from InMail we use InMail to promote the big rocks many times. You can see an example here: 5% CTR, 75% open rate. These are insane numbers for email marketers. InMail, take your email campaign, tweak it a bit, drop it into InMail, and test it out. You can see it's personalized. It's got a little picture of the person it's coming from. It's got the visual interest. It's short, it's sweet. It's got 100% deliverability because it only delivers when the person is online. Plus, you get a 60-day share of voice, meaning that no one else can send a sponsored InMail to that prospect during that time. Right? Think about that. Now, this really happened. This is sort of an astonishing tale of content marketing based on an ebook called Astonishing Tales of Content Marketing. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy here. But this is an InMail that was sent out by me to some prospects, I think about 6,000 or so. But what would happen next will completely blow my mind. I've never seen this in my entire life, folks. A 95% open rate on an InMail. How does that happen? Well, look at the chart. Most marketers check their email. I'm going to compare email versus InMail here for a second. Most marketers check their email 2 weeks out. They're like, oh, it's doing okay, right? But if you look at this, since you have that 60-day share of voice, if you look at this out 30 days, it keeps going up. 35 days, 40 days. You look at it 60 days out, you got a 95% open rate because it's sitting there waiting for this person to log in. And as long as it's a big rock relevant piece of content, evergreen content, it's not going to be stale. So think about that. That's really powerful. So I think this is our last poll question, and then I'm going to dive into my finale here. But very quickly, how do you measure your content marketing ROI? Is it views, clicks, interactions, leads, revenue, all the above? None of these are wrong. And again, views, clicks, interactions, I think are just as important as ever right now. Look at that. That's revenue. What's that little guy doing down there? We need to get him back up. So hopefully we can help out with that. Interesting, folks. We'll share all this with you after the webinar. I got to cruise through this because I got two more little portions here and I got 5 minutes. So hopefully we are recording this, so we'll send out the recording if you got to jump off. And I do have some questions I'm going to get to as soon as I cruise through this really quickly. But the power of advocacy, again, if you're not leveraging the employees within your organization to promote your content, missing an opportunity. What does this look like? I will tell you from our own research at LinkedIn. Employees' combined connections on social networks are on average 10x larger than company followers, right? That's just the beginning now. Shared content, this is from our own research again. Shared content is more credible content. Only 3% of employees share content on average, yet they generate 30% of all content engagement for typical business. Think about if you could just double that 3%. Think about the impact you would have there. Super easy to do. Employees get double or 2x higher click-through rates from their shares compared to companies who share the same content. Why is that? Peer-to-peer trust, I think, is the answer, right? And then this is the journey of every 6 pieces of content an employee shares on LinkedIn. It influences 6 job views, 3 company page views, 1 company page follower, 6 profile views, and 2 new connections established. So what's in it for you? It's going to boost your profile. If you're a sales rep, it's going to boost your prospecting. It's helping everyone. It's just a holistic approach. It's helping the company, it's helping you, and it's building and growing your network and your personal brand at the same time. And it's organic. It's natural. Just do it, right? So this is my own personal journey. Last year, using Elevate, which is LinkedIn's advocacy platform, I basically measured, I tracked every piece of content I shared. I shared 3 pieces of content a day, 5 days a week, and the results were 23 million in reach and 60,000 events and engagement. That's insane. That's just that's one person. That's my personal network. So this is the finale, folks. I'm going to crank through this and hopefully get to a few questions, but I know some of you got to jump, so hang in there. This is my finale, and it's called The Death of the One-Dimensional Marketer. I'm drinking Baraka this morning because I was at KISS last night, if you forgot. So the death of one-dimensional marketer. This is the most important lesson I'm going to tell you today. The biggest lesson I've learned over the past 6 to 7 years of being a B2B marketer. Well, the biggest lesson is I never thought I'd be a B2B marketer. In fact, I never said to myself, I can't wait to become a B2B marketer. But the biggest lesson I've learned is that if you are a one-dimensional marketer, you are easily disposable. You have to learn the different disciplines, and you have to learn how these work together. Am I an email marketing expert? Absolutely not, but I can write one hell of a subject line to promote the Big Rock content. Am I an SEO expert? I'm pretty good with SEO, but I understand how the web interprets my content and how to optimize it to be found. Demand gen, same thing. Not an expert, but I understand how this all works together. So folks, you have to understand how all these different disciplines work together. If you're a specialist, you're in trouble. Get on Linda Learning. I don't care. There's plenty of tutorials. There's no excuse not to learn coding, not to learn everything you possibly can about demand gen, about the funnel, about conversion tracking, about AdWords, everything you can possibly get your hands on. I'm 43. It's never too late. I promise you that. Now, this is my finale. It's called the Marketing Team of the Future as demonstrated by KISS, inspired by KISS from the show last night, but this is a classic for me. So in order to put everything into practice that I showed you, this is super important. This is what it looks like. And there are a lot of startups in the world who have figured this out now because they're growing up through this, right? So the bigger the companies, the bigger the silos, the bigger the problems. So think about this. This is what the future marketing team looks like. SEO, social, content, demand gen, PR, and most importantly, community. Now, what does this look like in action? Well, think about this. I was watching KISS last night, and I'm thinking about this. You have 4 unique band members on stage working together to deliver an amazing product, which is the song. They each have their own individual roles, but they're synced up perfectly. Is your marketing team like that? Does social talk with SEO? Does PR talk with content? Does demand gen talk with content and social and SEO? If it's not, then you have a real problem. So what we have here is we have Peter Criss representing SEO, laying the groundwork. He's the drummer of the band. He lays the groundwork for the songs. SEO lays the groundwork for your strategy. Plays into Paul Stanley, the singer of the band, representing social. Social represents the tone and voice of your company. Fuels content. That goes directly into Mr. Gene Simmons, who represents content marketing. He fuels demand generation. He's the core of the band. He writes the best songs. He sings the songs that Paul can't sing because Paul's voice is too damn high. And then that plays directly into Mr. Ace Frehley, who ties it all together with a lead guitar solo representing demand gen. And this goes back and forth. That fire goes back and forth between demand gen saying, hey, content, hey, Gene, this stuff is working. Can you get me some more of this type of content? and Gene's reaching out to Paul saying, what's the voice, what's going on out there, what's the conversation we need to own, and Mr. Peter Chris, the drummer SEO, is laying the groundwork, optimizing the conversation to be found, and making sure that they are talking about the actual conversation that you need to be ranking for and sharing content, creating, and promoting it for. So these are their big rocks. They consistently deliver content their fans want to consume and share. If you're a huge Kiss fan, you'll notice that Monster is up there twice, and you're saying, that wasn't a very good record. And I'm going to say, there was a Brazilian DVD bonus edition that I really liked. So deal with it. Then we get into PR. This is Doc McGee, the guy in the middle of the band here. He doesn't sit in an ivory tower like barking orders. He's on tour with them, guiding their world, or guiding their vision as the hottest band in the world, right? So think about this. Is your PR talking to your social content? The influencer marketing right now, there's so much overlap between analysts and influencers, right? So someone like Brian Solis, he's an analyst, he's an influencer in both social and content. He doesn't have time for one conversation, let alone 3 fragmented conversations. So think about it. You have to be working with this integrated marketing approach. And then, of course, event marketing. They deliver an amazing experience on tour. We all know how important experiential marketing is in events. And then, most importantly, they built a thriving community. Folks, this is my last slide, I promise you. But not my last slide, but the finale. They built a thriving community. This is the Kiss Army. Last night I was at this show. There had been 15,000 people there, and I'm walking in. I'm like, these are my people. I feel at home here. I can connect. I've been a card-carrying member of the Kiss Army for 30 years now, and I can connect with any of these people. I don't paint my face like that. That's a little weird, but I don't mind if someone next to me does. But think about this. Ask yourself, with all this talk about building a community in marketing, building followers, does your community feel like they're part of something bigger? Do they feel like they're part of a movement? We started the Sophisticated Marketer movement here at LinkedIn. It's a place where marketers can get together. It's a place where marketers have other folks to lean on, learn from, and support them along their journey to become a better marketer. I'm learning every single day, especially with my move to a global role here out of the UK. But I learned just in Dubai and Sydney. Over the past few weeks, I've learned so much from my counterparts over there as well. So never stop learning, folks. I will leave you with this. This is a quote from the greatest content marketers in the world. Paul Stanley was looking me in the eye when he said this. I think he was. He might have been looking at the girl behind me. I don't know. But he said, people want to thrill, people want a spectacle, and people love to be entertained. And I will leave you with that. That says everything you need to know about how to focus on content marketing, being relevant at the top of the funnel, and especially in the world of B2B, which has been too boring for way too long. So this is my book called Welcome to the Funnel. Sold a few copies around the world. Ann Hanley was kind enough to do the forward for me. So this is everything I know about content and social wrapped up into a little book with some rock and roll stories. It's the playbook from Marketo to LinkedIn. Everything's in here. It blows my mind that people still don't follow this because it works and it's scalable. This is my content photography book that I've been working on. Is coming out next month. 1 million photos, 4 years. It's quite a journey. And this is my personal branding book, which is coming out in this summer, called Alive and Amplified: How to Stand Out. How to stand out from the marketer next to you and become a linchpin for your organization. This is how to bring yourself to work every day, folks, and be different. Think about that. And with that, I will leave you with thank you and the hives. So I know you got to run, but I'm going to try to jump into a few questions until the webinar folks kick us out of here. So let's see. See if I can get 2 questions in here. Now, I've not seen these questions, so I'm going to just jump right in. If I don't like it, if I don't know it, I'll be honest with you. How can you do true A/B testing when you got positive bias algorithms for sponsored content? Ben, that's a pretty big question. I don't think I have time to answer that, but it's. I guess if you want to call it true A/B testing, that's a pretty big question. I don't have an answer for you, Ben. I'd have to actually dig into that, but I certainly can follow up with you. I mean, you could say the same thing about most of the social networks, but A/B testing, true A/B testing, whatever. It's getting us higher conversion rates when we test them out. So let's see if I can get one more here. Purely in a digital and social space, would you agree B2B marketing is getting closer to how you do things in a B2C environment? Yeah, absolutely. And why is that? because the lines are blurred, because it's overly competitive, because people just want to be, sometimes they just want to be entertained, and you got to build that trust before you try to sell them anything. So yeah, I don't think there's any difference between what works in B2B or B2C right now. I think B2B, B2C marketers have had fun for a very long time, and they've always been better at creative. But they used to have to, they used to just sell one and done and move on their way. Now they need to build these communities, to build these relationships. They need the technology that B2B has, and B2B's got the technology. We've been building these relationships over time for quite some time. Obviously, the deals are bigger in many cases, but yeah, that's interesting. So B2C, more creative, needs the technology that B2B has. B2B needs to get more creative and have a little bit more fun, but they have the technology, and we've been doing this for a long time. So let's see. See if I can get one more in here, and then I'm going to run. I will follow up with a blog post. I'll answer all these questions for you. Can we find the books in Singapore? Yes, I will share the slides with you, no problem. What is this? This is, oh, there's some questions on the slides from earlier. Sorry, just tweet me and I'll get that back to you. Oh, here we go. What's the best way to integrate my content marketing into my e-commerce business? E-commerce is yeah, I honestly have never worked in the e-commerce space, but again, you're driving sales, which come, probably the majority of those come from search. So you ask yourself, what type of conversation do I want to own? How do you create that big rock? How do you have the home base of the blog? How do you build link backs so you can rank higher? And then how do you put together a plan to push that content out with a paid strategy and link it all together? So that's a pretty big question too. Last question here. Again, I'm reading these in live time, so I might be cutting my own throat here. Because I'm a professional content writer, I was eager to know about the content marketing trends. Oh, I think that's just a comment. So, yes, we will get you the whole session recording, and I think that's it. All right, folks, we are 7 minutes over time, and we're going to wrap it up here. So thanks so much for your time. Any questions, please tweet to me. I will try to get a blog post up on all the questions that I did not get to. So thanks everyone for your time, and sorry for the technical difficulties in the beginning. Love to hear your comments. Please be kind in the reviews, and we'll see you next time. Thanks so much.